Everybody, it's your boy. I'm your guy. Oh my God, I got a smooth guy on the channel today. Oh man, I'm Anthony Brogdon. I host this show and I get these smooth, conscious, um, respectable icons of their community. And today's guest comes from the UK, United Kingdom, over there across the pond, and they are a part of our African black, you know what I'm saying, community. We
I hear
all
that, man.
one. We come from the same continent, and this brother got some stuff he gonna share with you today that's gonna blow your mind. Do this, my friends. Hit the subscribe button on Strong Inspirations. It's free. We don't ask no information. It just let me know you like me, because I like y'all already. You sitting there watching me. Hit the like button on this video. This guy right here, he got something for you. And check it out, my friends. He got that accent too. He the real deal. And then
Wow.
hit the notifications bell for when the videos come up. You get a ding, a shock, a smoke signal, your lights flicker, your watch dings, and the alarms go off to say, hey, there's new content on Strong Inspirations. Everybody, this is my first interview for the 2023 year, and we gonna jam this year, folks. And we're gonna start it off with a bang. I am international. Did you see the one I did with the sister? I'm staying in the UK. She said that she loves Tulsa, Oklahoma, Black Wall Street so much that she named her business that. And she's in Europe. Watch that video. Did you see the one I did with the guy who he talks about? No, how about this? With the lady in the UK who is very proficient in genealogy, just, researching your family roots. She heads up the Society of Genealogy in the UK. She says, nah, that they done gave me this position. I'm letting my brothers and sisters find their family roots. Watch that video. How about this? I'm staying international. Did you see the one I did, again, out of the UK with the sister who has the bookstore and talks about her family coming from the islands and what happened? Watch that video. Did you see the one I did at the time? The guy was, I think this guy was he was in the UK. It's several of them. Go to that international section on the channel, and you'll see them. We got them from Australia, we got them from Africa, from Ireland, and we're gonna do a lot more international stuff in 2023. I am not playing with you, my friends. I got these people, let me tell you something. I got these people who are conscious, and they come on the show. We're gonna rock it, and we're gonna rock it today. Couple more things I like for you to do, my friends, is that, as you might know, commercial time, I did this documentary on the rise of Black business in America, and it is streaming in the UK on Amazon and throughout America. So over there, you, my friends, y'all can watch this. It's good. It tells you about how there were slaves in America who owned businesses and so much more. And then I wrote this book, similar to the movie, but has more facts. This book is going to be a bestseller. I can feel it. People are ordering it, and get your copy. It's very reasonably priced. I'm so confident that you'll learn something new that if you don't, I'll give your money back. A book with a money back guarantee. Boom, shakalaka. Here it is. I ain't playing with y'all. I'm giving it to you straight, no chaser. So go to my website, businessintheblack.net. You can follow me on Twitter at A Strong Dream. If you're on Facebook, go to Business in the Black, go to the Black Business Book, go to Strong Inspirations. I got pages for everything I do. I'm building me a family here, and we all working together. And then when my people come on the channel, I stay in touch with them. I don't do this one-time thing. They come back on more than once. We're gonna share this information. This is my calling, everybody. Y'all gonna like this guy. And so y'all hear me use this term strong a lot. Strong is my favorite word. I wish my middle name was Strong. And in my world, strong stands for strength, tenacity, resilience, and a sense of oneness, nobility, and grace. And that's my introduction to my guest today. He's a strong soul, brother. Come on, my man. Tell us your name. Thank you for being on Strong Inspirations.
Anthony, thank you so much for having me as a guest. What can I say with an introduction like that? I mean, how can I even begin to fail? Yeah, my name's Leon. Born and raised here in the UK. My parents are Jamaicans. They came to the UK in the very early 60s. My siblings and myself were born and raised here. So I just kind of wanted to say that the Black experience here is very similar to the Black experience in the UK. We're under a lot of pressure from the system. It's just that simple, okay? Nobody's more Black than any other. Whatever pressure you guys are facing, we're dealing with it here. Black people are dealing with it all over Europe, France, Germany, Sweden, Norway. I've lived in those places. I've seen it for myself, okay?
Okay, let me we're gonna get to that because I want to talk about that. How is that dynamic? But just about yourself, did you grow up in a Black neighborhood there in the UK?
Absolutely. I grew up in a very predominantly Black and Asian neighborhood. When I say Asian, I'm talking about people from, Southeast Asia, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, but it was mostly Black people. A place called Handsworth in Birmingham, which is a very famous small part of Birmingham. There is a reggae band from Handsworth in Birmingham called Steel Pulse. Now, Steel Pulse,
yeah, sure.
They if you remember correctly, when Bill Clinton won the presidential election, he invited them to play on the White House lawn. Do you remember that?
Oh, no, really.
Yeah. So from my
Steel Pulse.
Yeah, from my town, from not just my town, but the place where I'm from. We kind of grew up together, all of us in this little place. So predominantly Black area, totally Black experience from birth.
Okay, let me ask you this. Why is that a Black area? How did that become a Black area? Do you know, was there like an industry there that everybody kind of migrated to?
Well, you know yourself in the US with the redlining, where they forced Black people to kind of move into one neighborhood with low price, low cost housing, poorly paid jobs and people. And it was a very similar thing. Black people tended to live in areas where there were predominantly Black people. Where I grew up in Birmingham was a place called Handsworth, and in the north, a place called in Leeds, a place called Chapeltown. Then you had Brixton down here in London, Harlesden down here in London. So you had these little areas where Black people from different parts of the Caribbean and Africa. There wasn't many Africans here back then, but a lot of people from the Caribbean, the old colonies, congregated to, and that's kind of where, and this is how we kind of grew up.
How far was the white community from where you were?
Well, I mean, let me see. I mean, you're probably talking, a good white area from where we were, maybe like 3 or 4 miles away, roughly.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you go? So you went to an all Black school?
No, this is the thing. My parents insisted that I went to a decent school in a decent area. Now, what they meant by decent was a school away from the area where I would be away from the influences of the area that I lived in and maybe able to focus on my studies. So they sent me to a technical school, which was in a predominantly white area, which is about 5 miles away from where I lived. It was an all-boys school at the time. I played rugby, I played lacrosse. I did all the sports that Black people's never done in their entire lives. But my parents insisted that I did that. And looking back, and it was the best thing that I ever did, because it then enabled me to go on to university, and it enabled me to widen my perspective on life.
Okay, I love it. Let me ask you this: what was in your neighborhood, being all Black? Was there a business district at all of the Black stores? Did you, that you could support that kind of thing?
Absolutely. Well, when I would say, I mean, one thing I would say with England that's very different from the US, and I've been to the US. I've been to Austin, Texas. I've been to San Fran. I was in San Fran just in May. So, I can see the dynamic with America. And of course, we get the American culture here, and we have done for the last 40 or 50 years. But what you find is that in England, you do have Black businesses, and there were a few Black businesses in the area. But the majority of the businesses were owned by people that were from the subcontinent of India. They would sell black food products and food stuff. So, but there were a few Black stores, but I would say predominantly Indian shopkeepers and shop owners.
Did you did you feel racism growing up? Did you? I mean, what did you fight white kids? Did they call you names in the school, that kind of thing? Is there that kind of
Yeah.
overt stuff that happens?
Oh yeah, certainly. When I was younger, when I was 12 and below, not a problem because I went to a school that had a good mix. We had black, white, and Indian. But when I went to this boys' school, 5 miles away from where I lived, predominantly white, very upper middle class area. Whilst the majority of the school was fine, we just kind of got on. There was an element in the school that were racist. There was a small element, and even the teachers themselves didn't really take a
Really?
liking to the few of the black faces. But the saving grace for myself and the few black guys that were in the school, the head teacher, the principal, as you would call it in the US, he was actually Jewish. I remember his name, lovely man, and he was quite supportive of us if we ever got into any scrapes or any problems, because he always kind of what's the word? What I'm looking for is he would compare himself, his struggle as a Jew, with the black struggle. So,
Oh,
and it's,
really?
yeah, he sat us down one day in his office. This was after maybe like the 10th scrape or the 15th fight that we had in school with some racist person or group. And he sat us down and told us for the first time that, I am Jewish. I understand what you guys are going through. So
Oh,
it was quite nice to have him, the saving
yeah,
grace of all the teachers in the school. He was the head and he was a saving grace for us. And I
yeah.
have a lot of respect. I have a lot of respect for him for that reason.
In America, when white people don't like you, and I'm gonna go through the ages.
Mm-hmm.
Back in slavery days, they call you nigger. Then
Yeah,
the names change. Is
yeah.
there names that white people call black people over there to be derogatory or something? Is it
What?
still nigger or whatever?
No, no, no. I think the names like I guess you don't really hear them so much. I'm sure people tend to use these names at home as opposed to being in the streets and calling you. But it's words like coon and sooty, sooty. The dark remnants from the chimneys back in the day, the black
Oh,
ash from the chimneys.
really?
Yeah. So it'd be names like coon, sooty. I mean, nignog was the other one. Gollywog. These were the names that people tended to use back in the day.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Let me ask you this, because um when were you ever taught Black history as a kid in school, and what
No.
were some of the stories that they would say if you ever were?
Well, this is interesting because I've always had, my parents have always been very, very, very conscious, very at the top of their game, and have always ensured that we had a very good upbringing, and knowing about our own history. Certainly coming from the Caribbean, and we knew all about the slave revolts that happened all across the Caribbean, the Haitian slave revolts, all the stuff that happened in Jamaica. Stuff that we were never taught. So I was always abreast of what happened in history. But when I was at senior school, or what you'd call high school in the US, I remember I was sat in a history lesson one day, and the teacher was talking about Henry VIII or something like that. So I said, "So, sir, I just wanted to challenge him. I knew where I was going with the conversation. So I said, excuse me, sir, what did we do in history?" He says, "You were slaves, and that was it." And I was the only black guy in the class, and there must have been maybe another 20 other people in the class who were white, and they all started laughing. It was an uproar of laughter. So I turned around and said to him, "Well, social security systems were in place in Africa 2,000 years ago. People were performing eye surgery and cesarean sections." I said, "This isn't anything that the Europeans invented." I said, "We were doing that long before you." And he told me to get out of the class because I was a disruptive influence.
Really?
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
But then that principal said, "Hey, sir, you got to at least account for my man's feelings," or something like that.
What happened was I stood out. I didn't actually go to the principal that day. He just told me to stay outside the classroom and wait there. And at the end of the lesson, he came to me and said, I shouldn't interrupt him in the class. But I guess it's because I challenged him. Back then, certainly with the way that teachers taught, they were the only authority in the classroom, and I guess you couldn't challenge them back then. It might be slightly different today, but I'm
Yeah,
48, almost 49. I'm going back,
yeah,
some
yeah, yeah.
30
Sure.
plus years ago. Yeah,
But but now you being the conscious person, how did you get
yeah,
to? How do you learn? I mean, other than your parents, are
yeah.
there organizations there?
Well,
Like here in America, we have NAACP, we got
mm,
other
mm,
organizations, we got people who are very conscious. I mean,
yeah.
so we can hear it and go to events. Could you hear that growing up, or even
Not
now?
not much back then, and I'll tell you why. We never really ever had that kind of movement here in Britain. What I find is that Americans had a very different experience in the way when slavery ended, because slavery was within the country. I think Black Americans kind of pushed for their own rights to, because they were part of the fabric of the country, whereas the blacks in Britain, we came here from the colonies, so it's a very slightly different dynamic. But what made me very conscious was just growing up around the elders, a lot of dreadlocks in the family. There's a lot of
Okay, I love it.
historical discussions, a lot of discussions around music, and also remember, I grew up in a time during South African apartheid. So as a young boy, 7 or 8 years old, 9 years old, I have images of my mom looking at the evening news with tears running down her face, watching the black people in the townships being beaten by white police officers and having dogs set in them. This politicized me from a very early age, a very early age. Seeing this, thinking, hold on,
Yeah, sure.
why is it us being attacked? This is where we're from. We shouldn't be attacked in the place that we're from. And of course, hearing the discussions from the elders around all these things that were happening at that particular time, and the entire 80s in Britain, there was a huge social unrest. You had the miners' strike, you had the Falklands War, which people were against, and you had the South African apartheid as well, which I would add as a caveat: both Britain and the US remain the two biggest investors in South Africa during apartheid than any other nation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you being the kind of guy, could you find other people like you?
Oh God, yeah. The way we grew up, man, we were, because one thing that unifies us as black people, man, we've got the same struggle. Wherever I go and I see a black face, I will say hello, and that black face always says hello back. We know that we're connected. We know we're connected. Yeah, and that's a nice feeling to me. That's a nice feeling for me. Yeah, I know that we're connected, and it's just nice that we know there's that. Yeah,
I got
that
one.
brotherhood is there.
I got one more on this note. Okay, because you all over there don't have the same dynamic as we do here in America. The people who don't have that, the black people, what is their response to Black history? Are they subservient? Do they, you know what I'm asking you? Are they now saying, hey, I need to know this? Or some of them saying, okay, I'm Brit, all is well, and I'm not having any issue.
Yeah, I mean, you've got varying degrees of black people. You'll have some of these black people that are completely what you guys would call Uncle Toms. They suck up to the system and the man. These people, I have no time for them. If they want to do their thing, they do their thing. I don't really care for them.
Yeah, sure.
I don't hang on to slavery and hang on to the past. But let's be honest. Slavery lasted for a period of about 400 years.
Yes.
Britain, the US, Belgium, these countries became unbelievably rich off the backs of our ancestors, but we don't talk about it. They don't want us to talk about it, but they want us to talk about some dead king's wives from 500 years ago, but let's not talk about the places that made us rich today. And that bothers me. So for me, the way I see it is, and it's only just now I've come to the realization, and I'm not thinking highly of myself here, but somebody says to me, it's almost as if the ancestors are speaking through you, Leon, because people warm to your tweets on Twitter. And then you reached out to me, and when I mentioned I'm going to be speaking to Anthony at Strong Inspirations, people like, you see, I've told you the ancestors are speaking through you. And it's a nice feeling that I have, that I managed to build up such a following on Twitter, talking about political and social injustices. And it isn't just black against towards black. I talk about political and social injustices against everybody, because if all of us are united against the political struggles, regardless of color, regardless of religion, regardless of gender, okay, we can defeat the system. But as long as we're divided along the lines of color, sexual orientation, religion, gender, we can't defeat anything.
Okay.
You with me?
I got one more that just popped in mind, and then I want to stay. I'm going to get back to that. What's a Black history story out of the UK?
Black history story.
A person that everybody kind of should know about.
Oh, wow.
Anything like that.
Now you're testing me. There's a guy called, his name is Emmanuel. I can't remember his last name, begins with an O. And again, this is something that everybody should know, but he was actually a playwright back in the day and a literist. And I'm going back into the 1700s. I'm gonna share the name with you shortly. I mean, these are these are people's names that we should know about. You also have Mary Seacole. She's another lady. She is the Black Florence Nightingale, if you will, who helped out soldiers during the Crimean War. There is actually a statue of her here in London. Okay, and let's also remember back in the first reign of Elizabeth I. There was something like 20,000 black men and women living and working in London freely. And we never hear about this. It's never discussed. We've been here a lot longer than they tell us. They've been telling us we've been here since the 50s and the 60s. No, 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 no. We've been
Oh,
here for a few.
really?
We've been here for a few hundred years. Even Henry VIII, the great King Henry VIII, and I say great king, he's not great to me, but to other
Yeah.
people, he had a black trumpeter. Henry VIII lived back in the 1700s, right? 16, 17. He had a black trumpeter in his court band called
Okay.
John Blank. You can John Blank with an E.
Yeah.
And he was a trumpeter with Henry VIII. I mean, these are names that people don't know because they're just airbrushed out of history.
Yeah, sure. Well, what is the history of Black people in the UK? We can say our history goes back, to the Spanish bringing them into Florida, so on and so
Yeah,
forth, and then
yeah.
slavery. What's the history? Is the history not necessarily? You just alluded to it. It doesn't start to the migration back from the Caribbean. There's other stories of Black people in Europe, in the UK in
Well,
particular.
I think that the stories have been airbrushed out of history. But what I actually quite love is with more of us being born in Britain, and we're in the third or fourth generation now of blacks being born in. People are now black and brown researchers. When I say brown, I'm talking about Indian and Pakistan and Muslim. Black and brown researchers are now doing the research that white people were doing back in the day. And they're now bringing forward the stuff that those white historians and researchers conveniently left out. So we're learning more and more about our history unfolding. Just the fact that I told you 20,000 black people were living and working in
Right.
Elizabethan England. This is fairly new information. I mean, this only came out maybe like a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago. So
Really?
yeah, so again, and it's because this is black people doing the research. A guy called um his name escapes me. He will come to me. Yeah,
David,
but
the David guy that wrote the books.
David Olusoga. Thank you very
That's
much.
right. Yeah, I heard
This
of
is
him.
a man, and his brother is also a professor. They both have doctorates, and his brother does also the same research.
Right.
Mm.
When you talk about your parents going from
Mm.
Jamaica,
Yeah,
is that migration period? Is there a time period where there was a great Europe went over there and said,
yeah,
"Hey, come back over here"?
yeah,
What's
yeah.
the years of
Well,
that and
well,
your
this,
parents getting there?
well, this is a funny thing because my parents came here. I think 1960. My dad came here. I think 59. Mum came here 62, and they weren't part of the Windrush. They weren't on the Windrush boat. Okay, but what it was, the war ended, and what Britain realized was at the end of the war, they had so many jobs available, they needed people to fill the jobs. So what they done was called in people from across the colonies, if you will, people from different parts of Asia, India, Pakistan, and people from across the Caribbean. Because the Caribbean didn't really have much to offer at that particular time, people thought, you know what, well, let's go to England, let's make some money, save up a bit of money, we can come back home and live life. But that didn't really happen. What happened was people came to England, they started working, but what they found when they arrived, it wasn't what they thought it would be. It wasn't what they were told it would be. So, after a while, people started having children and families, and before you know it, they stayed, and then their
Yeah.
grandchildren were born and great grandchildren were born. But there's something very interesting about the Windrush. I should share with you. The British history will tell you that the Windrush was a welcomed ship, and with all these black people coming from the Caribbean.
Okay, hold on. I mean, no disrespect.
That's fine.
You're calling this something. What is it? Yeah, because people who've never heard of the Windrush, what is that?
All right, all right. The
Yeah, yeah,
Windrush,
yeah.
the Windrush was a ship. It was a ship, a passenger ship that took a group of Jamaicans, sorry, a group of people from the Caribbean, okay, from the Caribbean to England, and these were the
Okay.
first arrivees from the Caribbean to come to England to find work, okay, and they call them the Windrush generation. And initially, I mean, what British history would tell you is this: British history would tell you that the Brits had sent a ship to the Caribbean, put black people on there, and the black people came over, and black people were happy to come here and work, and they were welcomed with open arms. Okay, but what we've also learned from David Olusoga and also my man Akala, who wrote the book Natives, that the Windrush initially they actually tried to divert it. They didn't want black people coming here. They wanted to send the ship to Africa so they could actually pick bananas on a plantation. Would you believe that? But
Mm.
back then, of course, no internet was available. They relied a
Yeah,
lot on
sure.
telegram. But the message it had been received too late for them to divert the ship. So the ship ended up coming to London anyway, or to Southampton, I believe it was. Anyway, so
Is it so? There's a port there that people recognize as the port of entry for Black people, and is there like a maybe a historical marker, that kind of
to,
thing, maybe there?
to my knowledge, no, they're not there. I'm not sure if it was Southampton or London. I can't remember. I believe it was
Yeah,
Southampton, but I there is, I don't think there's a historical marker. I mean, they
really.
try. I mean, they try and do a little bit to say that we are a very open nation and a very welcoming nation. But
Yeah,
England is, yes, of course. It's. I mean, I love London. It's one of the greatest cities in the world. It's an amazing place. It's one of the global pinpoints. You have several. You have New York, you have LA, you have Tokyo, Paris, and you have London. It's these five cities smashing it
okay,
around the globe. And if anything's
okay,
happening, it's happening in these places. I love London, but let's be
yeah,
frank. We
yeah,
do have we do have problems here. We do have
yeah,
social problems. We do have racial problems, like
yeah,
everywhere.
yeah,
And
sure.
I don't believe in sitting on them and being quiet about them. Let's talk about them. Let's have uncomfortable conversations until they become comfortable.
Let me ask you this: what did your dad and your mom do for a living? How?
Oh, okay, cool. Mom, they're both retired now.
Yeah,
But my mother she worked in the care sector where she was taking care of elderly people. She used to do night works, low pay, but she managed to raise four children, and all of us went to university and did well for ourselves.
yeah, I love it.
And my father, he actually ran his own small business, nothing major, but
Okay,
he makes and the business still runs, but he doesn't operate it anymore.
yeah, sure, sure.
He makes costumes for stage and theatre.
I
So
love
that's
it.
So that's what he does. He's always been his own man. He's never worked for anybody, apart from when he first arrived in the UK and he put his money together and worked for himself. But believe me, we're not wealthy, we're not
Yeah,
rich. I
yeah,
don't have an
sure,
empire to
sure.
take over. It was just, it fed and kept us warm, and that's it.
Can a guy like you, and you're astute now,
Mm.
I'm taking liberties of all these other escalades
Yeah,
that we can
yeah.
go down. Could you ascend in London to something like government, if you wanted to run for office, or could some company over there hire you, and then you might have a track to be executive vice president, that kind of thing?
You know, I think this is where America definitely beats us and trumps many countries in the world. Even though there are issues in America, I've always
Yeah,
said with
sure.
America, if you've got talent in America, you can be recognized for it and you can make money from it. That I know. In England, it's a very slightly different dynamic. If you look at I mean, you can still run for office or run to become a politician. We have black politicians. We have black businesses run and owned by black people. But what you find is that being a black person, you have to work four times as hard as the next person, and that's your white and your Asians because they're always going to be number one and two in the pecking order, and then comes us, and then it's usually Black Africans and Black Caribbeans kind of balling for that third spot. So yes, you can, but it's a very bit it's quite difficult, and also it's about the attitude. Me, for example. People on Twitter have asked me, "Have you ever considered being a politician?" I have a master's in political science. Uh, would I work in politics? God, no. With the thought processes that I have, with the way I am as a person, I no political party would want me because they would probably see me as a disruptive influence,
Oh,
for
I
want of a
got you. I
phrase.
love it.
You
I
know?
love it.
Yeah.
What
So
what is who are there is there a black owned company there that is the guy is a multi-millionaire, you know what I mean? And everybody kind of knows their name and they've been, doing it for a while or anything like that?
not to my knowledge, no. I mean, I'm sure there
Really?
are. I'm sure they are out there, but not to my knowledge. I mean, the Prime Minister, which is a guy called Rishi Sunak, he's Indian, Hindu background. He's almost a billionaire. He and his wife are worth something like £700 million, but I think he made his money through hedge funds and banking.
Yeah.
But yourself, Indians are very, very business focused and business orientated, and there's a simple reason for that. When the
Yeah.
British went into Africa, they never went into Africa to teach us anything other than enslave us. When they went into India, they did actually teach the Indians a little bit about business and commerce. And this is where the difference is. It's just that simple and nothing else.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
you say you do what now? You tweet and you have a voice. You got a following. Tell us a little bit about that and how long you've been doing it and that kind of thing.
Absolutely. Well, I joined Twitter. I think it was a January 21, or was it January 22? I think it's January 21. And what happened was I joined purely to discuss the Brexit situation, the departure of Britain from the EU, because it was a very hot topic. I voted. I was living in Sweden at the time, and I didn't get to vote, but had I been able to vote, I would have voted Remain, because I believe being a part of a bloc of something is better than being isolated and on your own. So yeah, I started tweeting with people about that, and what I quickly found was I tweet on some subjects, and people I wouldn't get that much of a bite, and you tweet on other subjects, and you get much of a bite. So I kind of learned which subjects I can discuss and which I shouldn't or couldn't discuss. And 2 years down the road, I mean, I've got almost 14,000 followers, which, yeah, I mean,
Wow.
it's not, yeah, it's not bad, and it's growing, and people contact me all the time, DM. Certainly at with the change, with the new year, people personally contacting me saying thank you for
Yeah.
helping me keep saying this last year and talking
Yeah.
the truth, and pointing out the things that people are not. But I hold no bars. I just kind of let it out. I have the Malcolm X I have the Malcolm X as my banner on my profile bio, and it
Oh, I
says,
love it.
I'm gonna tell it like it is. I hope you can take it like it is, and that's just how. This is exactly how I am. I'm just telling you how it is, and I'm not gonna butter it up, and I will always give you a source with a fact. It's not just going to be worse. If you try to challenge me, I'll say, well, there it's black and white, and I'll give you
Yeah.
another source and another source, and this is how I work.
Okay, but now I'm not knock on wood on this. But are you scared for yourself? I mean, it's not like you're antagonizing too many people, and have they heard of you and now
Well,
saying, "Hey, we
well,
got to put you on the watch list" and all that other stuff?
I'm probably going to watch this anyway for the books that I rent out to the library and the stuff that I read and buy. But you know what? At the end of the day, you know, I'm not scared, because I'm not using racism, or I'm not singling out a particular group. In fact, the only people I single out are the establishment, the politicians, and the establishment for not doing what they say they are doing, lying to the people about trying to help and doing better when they're doing none of the sort. All they're doing is enriching themselves, and I call them out on it. I sometimes I definitely attack the newspapers, because I find that the newspapers in this country. I mean, we have I think 71% of the print media is owned by three people: Lord Rothermere, Rupert Murdoch, and a guy called David Barclay, I think his first name is. He was part of a twin, but the twin died. But they own 71% of the media. That's too much power of information in the hands of too few. And what you find is this country's burning at the minute. There's so much happening. Infrastructure's collapsing, the healthcare's collapsing. People are hungry, people are cold, people are dying. But they're telling you everything's good in the country. Everything's great, and it's not.
Really?
And this is what I try and let people know. I try and produce facts and say, look, hold on, our economy is now shrunk by 10%. That's twice what they said it would have shrunk a year ago if we left Brexit. But they're telling you everything's great. Yesterday, I think we had something, I think like 500 people are dying literally on a weekly basis, I believe, in the NHS, because they can't get the care that they need. But
Really?
the prime minister yesterday's talking about introducing mathematics in school until children are 18. That's not priority right now. Let's help the sick.
I
Let's
love it.
let's get people's houses warm. Let's put food on the table. Let's give people, people decent paying jobs. This is what people need, and these are the things that we need to take care of right now in our society, and then we can deal with the rest later. But in this country, we need a total overhaul of our parliamentary, our political and legislative systems, um, electoral and legislative systems. We need that right now, because all we're going to do is shift from one party to another that's going to be very similar to the one before, and nothing's going to change. We're going to be back here in 10 years.
Has the authorities found out about you? I mean, has anybody, Biggs found out that follow you, like what you
Well,
said? Have you got a
yeah.
letter from somebody that said, "Hey, man, I can't say it publicly, but I like what you're doing. Keep it going"?
Well, I've a couple of journalists have followed me. Okay, a couple of journalists from BBC have followed me. A couple of them I've actually spoken to and met in person. They like my work. And there's an actress on TV here in the UK. She follows me. She loves my stuff and has said to me, "Your stuff's good." And there's also a couple of editors of alternative or independent media that have also contacted me and said my stuff's good and also follow me. So for me, that's validation. I'm not looking for fame, by no means. But what I want is people to know that, there are people thinking like them out there, and let's get together and let's defeat this problem, because we can only do it in together. We can't do it in our silos. We have to do it together. And I want people to know that there are other people like me out there, or other people like them out there.
Okay, let me ask you this, and I love what you're saying. What would be your next move? Okay, you keep growing this, and it keeps getting bigger. What do you think would be your next move? I'm not saying running for political office, but
oh God, no.
Maybe forming some organization where y'all meet once a month.
Absolutely,
whatever to connect people so that y'all can become a block. Let's call it.
In the immediate, I think in the immediate, what I would like to do is what I'm doing on Twitter currently. I'd like to extend that with, and I've actually kind of looked into it a little bit. Maybe doing little, videos of whatever subject I'm discussing, 2 or 3 minute videos. They don't need to be any longer than that, just to kind of put a voice to the tweet and a face to the tweet. And then of course organize with a group of people, real Black people, because let's have it right. We've got a lot of Black and brown members of our government currently, but these Black and brown people are not representative of Black people and brown people like myself. They come from money. They've all gone through private education. They've gone to the best universities, and they're helping the man forward their aims and not helping us forward ours. So these people are not really for me, and they don't speak for the majority of us Black people, unfortunately. They're not real enough, if you will. They're Black.
Have y'all had a guy that you like that has done that and put his career and on the line ever? I know
Colin Kaepernick.
Okay.
Colin Kaepernick is the only guy that I know that's sacrificed his playing career at the San Francisco 49ers to fight for what. And I don't know nothing about American football, but I have a number 7 San Francisco jersey at my house just because I believe in what the man is doing. And a lot of Black people can learn from him. They can learn from him. A lot of them talk the big talk, but they're not doing much. Some of them are doing stuff behind the scenes, but a lot of them ain't doing anything. They just keep quiet. But the man sacrificed his career to fight for what he believes in, and I got a lot of love for him all day. All day.
Just a few more. Has there been something that has helped Black people over there? Like give you an example. Here in America, and I thought it was a noble effort, and it still has a little steam, was what we call affirmative action. And affirmative action said, okay, we're going to hire so many people in this company. We got quotas we got to have. And it was a government institution that went down to the private sector. Has there ever been anything over there that kind of moved the needle that was intended to be a good program? Maybe it wasn't as effective as we would hope, but still the intentions were right.
Well, I think that we had we certainly didn't have the civil rights era, but they had something called the National Race Act, if I think my memory serves me correctly, and this came into force back in the day where it wasn't legal. It was made illegal to be racist against somebody else. Okay.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Man. I believe it was the National Race Act, but you can write a law, but it doesn't necessarily mean that people carry it out, okay? But I don't want to paint a bleak picture for you of England, because what you'll find is this, that you'll have a group of people that are probably racist, that don't mix with Black and Indian people, okay? And they just sit in their corner. And then you have the establishment and the aristocracy. These are the people who run the country basically from their ivory towers. But the majority of people, Black, white, and Indian, we all kind of just, do our thing together. We mix, we talk, we all get on because we're all in the same boat, and there's very little discrimination amongst us. It's the people that tend not to mix with us that have the issue. And you look at Brexit, for example. This is a prime example. Brexit. Some of the towns across the UK that voted to leave the EU, when asked what was a mitigating factor as to why they decided to leave, a lot of them said immigration. But when they look at some of the areas that these people live in, they were like 98% white. no foreigners are living in there, but they still voted on immigration being a factor of them as to why they wanted to leave the EU. Doesn't make any sense.
You said immigration. They didn't want more people coming to their cities and towns, and in particular, black people or
Well,
other
well,
Africans or whatever.
well, I mean, they want the right type of immigrants, don't they? I mean, again, and I think this is a nice little segue into my piece about the media I was going to discuss with you. What
Yes.
you what you'll find is that the media owned by three people, as I said, 71% of it's owned by three very wealthy men. Media newsrooms across the country, they tend to be filled with people who are very white, very upper middle class. In fact, this is a statistic that you can take to the bank. 96% of the media in this country is white. 55% of the media is male. They are very, very well educated, come from money. Now, when you have newsrooms that are like that in a country, what does that breed? It breeds groupthink, okay? And the media itself is racist to the point where it will always over-report on the crimes committed by black and brown people,
Okay.
whereas it will downplay the crimes committed by whites. You know this yourself in America. Whenever there's
Yeah.
a crime
Sure.
and you don't know the perpetrator's skin color, but they say terrorist, you know that's a
Yes.
black or brown person. But when they tell you
Yes.
it's a lone gunman, or you know the guy's white, right? And this
Yes.
is how it is. But what they're doing is they're creating a monster because they're leaving these right-wing idiots to grow very silently on the side while they attack us, when we're not really the real criminals here. So my point is, the newspapers feed a lot into the psyche of people themselves, and people kind of then feel that, oh, these people over here are bad, we've got to stay away from them, or to see the skin color. I mean, today I'm a grown man. As I said, I'm nearly 50.
Yes.
And my son's 20 years old. I'm a professional. I work in cybersecurity, and I'm smartly dressed. I'm sat in my office right now, right in central London. Beautiful place. I've got a panoramic view of the city. And I can leave this building and step out onto the sidewalk, or the pavement, as we call it over here, and a woman would have her phone and she'd put it away, or she'd clutch her bag when she sees me, although I'm smartly dressed. And that's
Yeah.
just
Sure.
because all their lives they've been taught the negativity of us. And many of them probably don't even realize they're doing it, but it's the daily drip feed of
Yes.
racism
I
fed into
got you. I
people's
got you.
minds, through the media and the paper. And it isn't just the media, but even in popular culture, TV, music, it's a daily drip feed. And it does have an effect after 20, 30 years of being fed the same thing over and over and over. And what I would like to do is change that perception, make people see us much better, or make people see us in the same way that they would view a white guy, that they wouldn't feel a threat from when they see me as a black man. Do you understand me?
Yeah, yeah. Could you become a public speaker, and like what the schools say, okay, we accept you to come in here and start talking like that, or some corporations say, okay, we want a diversity. Like here in America, we have diversity projects,
Yeah.
inclusion and multicultural, where
Yeah. Yeah.
they have some effort
Yeah.
to make black people feel comfortable, for
Yeah.
making white people understand.
Yeah.
Could there be an effort like that there?
I believe that there are some. I mean, there's definitely room for it. But also you have to understand, in this country there is a lot of denial about racism. People, the media, again, they get to control the narrative, right? So if you look at this latest situation with Harry and Meghan
Yes,
Markle
I'm
and
gonna ask you
Harry
about
the
that.
Prince,
Yeah.
huge problems. Harry and Meghan have been under relentless beating for the last 6 years. The last 5 or 6 years, they've been under hammering by the press. They've actually said nothing, left the country, leave everybody behind. And the newspapers continued and continued and continued. And what you'll find is that I think just the first installment of their Netflix documentary, I think within 1 hour of that being released on Netflix, one of the newspapers called the Daily Mail. You have two
Never
really
heard of
horrible
it.
papers, Daily Mail or Daily Express, and you have the Sun. But the Mail is very, very vile, very racist, very vile. And within an hour of that coming out, they released something like 59 negative articles just about Harry and Meghan. And it continues every day. And when you call out racism, you know what they say? It's not racism. And they'll have a panel of 5 white people on a show, and they'll put one black person there, and they'll say that's balance. And the 5 white people say, oh, I don't see racism. And the one black person will be battling against his 5, trying to say, well, it is a racist problem. But we're in a
Okay, let's
constant
stay on
state of
that
denial.
Megan thing. What?
Hmm?
Why did he marry her? I mean, hypothetically, I can say he loved her and all that stuff,
Yeah.
but you think was he because he grew up so? I'm a buck the system. I know y'all bad people. I'm gonna marry me a black woman, and then her mother sitting there on the thing. That was deep for them.
Listen, what you have to understand is the royal family, for me, all the royal family does, it just reinforces the white supremacy stereotype, okay, or that they, white people should reign supreme. That's all that they are. That's how I see them, nothing else, okay. And Harry married out of love. I've seen the first three, and I've seen 4 and 5. I've not seen the last. But when I listen to these guys talk, okay, and I'm not into royalty, I'm not really into famous people. When I listen to these two talk, these two married out of love. But the problem is this: Meghan Markle shattered the dreams of all the young white girls, or all the white women today. Because the biggest demographic of people that don't like Meghan are white females, okay, and they are of a certain age. And you think about this: when all women were young as little girls, what was their dream? To become a princess and marry a prince, right?
Sure.
Meghan Markle has been able to do that. And remember, she's done it as a black woman. Now, these women have been taught all their lives that they're better than black people, not by their parents telling them, but just by the daily drip feed of media.
Saying. I got you.
Yeah, man. So being what they've seen is, how can he marry her? I'm better. And this is why they hate her. Because when you listen to some of the comments that people make, they're just so unhinged and derogatory. And you think to myself, how can you not see that this is love and there's nothing else to it than that? And you hear all these stories, she's only with him for the money. She's the most highly educated, most accomplished person to ever join the family. But she still wasn't good enough for them. And they still will all tell you, it isn't because of her skin color. It's not because she's black. Listen to me. I've got experience with this world, and you've got experience with this world. You know yourself. We know when the problem is color. And the problem is color in this case.
They hate black people all over the world.
Listen, man, we are the most hated people on the planet. But you know what it is? Many of them are jealous of us and scared of us. No matter what we do, the game is rigged in their favor. They've tipped the game in their favor, but still jealous of us. Still jealous of us. But it's because whatever we do, it always turns to gold. Always. Okay? But I don't mind. I love my black skin, man. I love it. This is planetary ID, you know?
Yes,
I got natural UV filter from the sun. You understand?
Yes.
I love my skin. I love what we achieved on this planet. You understand me? And just the fact that they don't like it, it makes me love myself even more, my people even more. You understand me?
Okay. Since you said that, I got another question that's gonna mess you up. What would be your plight if you were white? What would be the difference?
Sorry, what would my
what would be your plight if you were white in the UK? What do you think?
Well, listen to me carefully. All right, let me tell you this. Let me tell you this. Whatever white people go through, let's just take ordinary working class whites, whatever they go through in life, black people go through the same thing, whether it's poor substandard education, poor housing, low paid jobs, problem children, child abuse, drug abuse, sexual abuse. They go through the same problems as blacks. But the added bonus that black people have is the black skin. Do you understand? Mm-hmm. We don't control anything in this country. The benefit of the doubt will always be given to white people over a black person every time. Always. You understand me? So the plight that they go through, we go through. I'll give you another great example. Glasgow, Scotland, okay? I believe in 2007, 2008, it was known as the knife crime capital of Europe, okay? Glasgow is half the size of London, I believe, in terms of population. But you were most likely, proportionally, it was like stabbings were 2 to 1, which means that you're twice as likely to get stabbed in Glasgow as you were in London. Now, when you look at the demographic, when you look at the demographics of Glasgow, Glasgow is about 98% white, probably a little bit less than that, but it's around in the mid 90s. Okay. Now, what they've done to get rid of knife crime was this. There was a lot of community programs, and they researched, they pumped money to find out. What they come out with was this: substandard housing, poorly educated, low-paid jobs, drugs use. These were the things that they found that actually put time and effort to find out what the problems were and how they could battle it, working with the police and community leaders. Fast forward to where we are today, another 15 years forward, the same problems are plaguing the black community. I want to say the black community, knife crime isn't very high here, but they over-report it massively. We only make up, I believe, let me see, something like 3% of the population in the country, okay? And I believe that we are something like 12% of the population of London. But if there's 50 stabbings in London in 1 year, and it's just black people stabbing other black people, that's only 0.001% of the population in the country as a whole. It's not very big. But the way the media talks about it, they talk about it like this big thing, and you have all these white commentators on TV talking about knife crime being a black problem, and and they just want to lock us up and throw away the key. And I actually had some words with a TV pundit, a talking head. His name's Andrew Pierce. He was on the national TV. And he's talking about knife crime being a problem. And I tweeted him and I said to him, and I just gave him those statistics. Why is it that whenever we commit a crime, it's always our skin color? But when white people commit a crime, they always look at the mitigating factors and delve into the background to find out what the problem is and where they went wrong. Why is it that we can't also have the same issues looked at with us?
I got you.
And I had a barrage of supporting tweets. I mean, there's thousands of people tweeted back saying, you're spot on, you're spot on, you're spot on. And this is it. Let's view things differently. Don't point at me because I'm black and saying I'm bad just because of this.
Yes.
Come on, man.
Yeah.
Come on. Yeah.
This has become your calling now, hasn't it?
I think so. I think I found my niche. I mean, I work in cybersecurity and I enjoy my job, but I kind of feel like this is something that I would definitely like to work with. But again, I definitely don't want to be in politics. It's too corrupt. It's too bent. But I would definitely like to speak out for people, those who need it. Certainly, as again, talking about social injustices and racial injustice and, how we can get people together and improve the lives of people. Because this, if we can get everybody living nicely and comfortably, it will reduce the need for crime. You understand me? People don't need to be scared about going out on the street and walking all hours of night without fear of being robbed if people have got enough. You understand me?
Yeah.
We don't know that.
Are your parents, I know they're proud of you, but are they also telling you play it cool?
Not at all. My dad knows how I am. He knows I'm vocal. But yeah, of course, I have to be very, very smart because the more exposure I get, all it takes is for one person to say the wrong word or say the wrong word in an ear and something can happen. But I must admit that I have started. I become more conscious. If I'm walking and somebody's walking behind me, I kind of look in the side of my eye.
Is that right? Oh
yeah,
my God.
But not much, just a little.
Yeah.
Or if I'm standing waiting for the tube or what you guys call the underground, I tend to not stand so close to the platform. I stand back away from the platform when the train is coming. Stuff like that. I've started taking these precautions, but it's not because I fear anything. Not that. I don't feel I'm being followed or watched, and I'm not. I'm not conscious or feel in any way, but I kind of need to just,
Yeah, I got you. Famous people here in America. Is there somebody that has inspired you to be this way that you pick up and say, I really like his or her principles?
There's tons of people, man. I mean, if you want to talk about Assata Shakur, I've read her book cover to cover. I love Angela Davis. I've read a book about Palestinians and how we should support them because they're troubled people. But of course, the classics, Fred Hampton, Malcolm X, these people are dear, man. And one of my reasons for going to San Francisco was because I wanted to see where the Black Panther started, because I've always been, and my company that I used to work for, they have offices in, I believe that the offices, they're not in San Francisco, they're in another part of California. And we were supposed to meet in Vegas just those 2 weeks I was away, but they gave me a certain amount of money for me to fly. And what I found was if I could fly to San Francisco and then to Vegas and back to London, and there'd still be money left over. So I flew to San Fran. I had 5 days by myself in San Fran, just moving around, just having a look around, just seeing the birthplace and the home of the Panthers, just to kind of connect and touch. Wherever I go, I want to see where Black people come, where we come from. I've been to Africa a couple of times. I've been to Ghana, I've been to Senegal, I've been to Gambia.
I love it.
Yeah. Just because I want to know, who I am, where I'm from, who we are, connecting with the homeland, if you will, the motherland.
This thing is going to get bigger than you sooner. then you know.
Yeah, you listen. I'm just gonna keep pushing, man. The uncomfortable conversations until they become comfortable. That's it. Everybody is worth something on this planet. We're all worth something. We shouldn't be marginalized because of our skin color, or we shouldn't be marginalized because of our sexual orientation, or our gender or religion. We should not be marginalized for that. We're all of worth on this
I
planet, and
love it.
a small group of people should not control our destinies or pigeonhole us into a certain era because they believe that we're worthy of that. That's not right. Come on, man. This earth belongs to all of us, and all of us have a stake in it. So
Okay,
I believe that. Yeah.
couple more. What would make a good day for you that you move the needle? I mean, I'm just talking something small, where
Yeah.
somebody, if it's
Yeah, man.
just one white person came up to you and
Yeah.
said, "Hey, man, I've been following you and I watch it. And has this happened where you
Yeah.
said, okay, I know I'm doing something good. Has that, you follow my question?
I I have a young guy on Twitter, a young black guy, probably about 22, 23, and I tweeted some stuff, and he wrote me a message, and he said, "I wish I had a teacher like you at school, or a youth leader like you to tell me this stuff that you're telling me now, because he goes, this stuff it's good for me. I hope that I can take some of this and use it later on in life." And that made me feel good. I felt like I'm doing something right
Yeah, I love
when,
it.
and I think it was also the same for me growing up. I had a lot of people around me growing up. My parents were, because my dad did a lot of work. He was a pillar of the community. So there was always a lot of people around. So I was always around these older women and men giving me all these nuggets of information that, of course, I'm now using, to my
Yeah.
ability, best of my ability.
So you to find out the topics you want to talk about, you got to do a lot of outside research somewhere in the underground to be able to make the decisions that you make to talk about, right?
Well, I read a lot of books. I mean, I have an extensive collection of books at home, and I'm reading everybody from Richard Wright to James Baldwin, Malcolm X, you name it. I mean, I'm reading all these books purely because I just want to know what the Black experience is like globally. We're all going through the same pressure. So I'm reading these books and understanding how the world works, how it functions. And I've traveled a lot, as I said to you before at the
Yeah,
beginning.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I traveled and lived across Europe for 22 years. So for me, is also learning about how other people live and getting a better understanding of the world. You know,
Just a couple more because you jamming so much, man. I'm sorry. Is there
yeah,
a place
please.
that you found was a better place for Black people?
I'm going to tell you something. I I lived in Sweden, all right, for 20 years, and what surprised me about Sweden? Sweden is a majority white country. Okay, what surprised me about Sweden? What I learned about Sweden? They were the first country to call out South Africa and the apartheid regime. They were very vocal about it. They've always been very, when it comes to championing the right causes, I think they were the first country to recognize Palestine as a state in later years. This country has always been very phenomenal in the way that it leads the world in what's right and what's justice and what's true. And in the time I lived over there, I did not, I did not experience any outward racism. You know,
Really? Okay. I love
no,
it.
I'm not. I'm not saying I wasn't discriminated against. One of the reasons for moving back was I'd gone to university for a second time. I have 2 degrees. And what I found was I couldn't really gravitate or elevate from where I was. So I thought, right, I can move back to Britain, and it'll be a lot easier for me. And I'll come back a better British because I speak 3 languages now. I have Swedish, I have Norwegian, I speak a little Spanish, not enough to work with. But even with my job today, I work solely with the Swedish and the Scandinavian region, Denmark, Norway, a little bit of Finland. So I'm using my language ability and the skill set I've got from my education, and I'm making money from it. So I'm a now improved Brit, if you will. So when I apply for work, I always apply for the jobs where my language skills will be required.
I got you.
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
got you.
Yeah.
Tell us how do people follow you? What do you have a website and that kind of thing?
No, just I'm only on Twitter. I don't even use social media like that. I don't have Facebook. I don't have Instagram or Snapchat. But it's we call it at Akan Kwaku, and that's AKAN Kwaku, KWAKU, and that's my Twitter handle. And people can follow me there. And again, it's a lot of politics. a lot of political discussions about the social problems and social injustices that we have in Britain. And of course, every now and again, I'll touch on stuff that's happening in the US. But because I'm not living there, I don't get too involved. But certainly, the Carl Rittenhouse case was something that I followed, and Trayvon Martin, and the death of Michael
Oh,
Brown, and
really? Okay,
and
I
George
got you.
Floyd,
I got you.
these things I'm up to date on. We can go all the way back to Emmett Till if you like. Before even people knew who Emmett Till was, I was reading
Yes.
about Emmett Till.
Yes. Um, are you gonna write a book?
I've actually there's a woman that I speak to on Twitter. She lives up in Birmingham, a black woman, and we call each other brother and sister. And she asked me recently. She said, "Are you gonna when's your book coming out?" I mean, I don't even know if I've got any content for a book. Do I sound like I can write a book to you?
Oh, no question. If just adding all the tweets together. And I
Yeah,
guess how do you get enough content? Because a tweet can only give you 100-something words. Do you just
yeah,
keep adding to that tweet?
yeah.
How do you make enough content?
Yeah, we
Yeah,
just you just do a thread, So once you write the
yeah,
tweet,
yeah,
you got a little plus sign, is plus. So I'll
yeah.
go if it's 5 different threads, I'll make the first one of 5, so people know that it's a thread and start reading through it.
Oh,
You
okay,
know,
okay.
yeah.
Because
But
that's not a
sometimes
lot of content there that you can
no,
do on Twitter.
it,
Yeah,
and I do also work with another group on Twitter, writing stuff for them as well,
yeah.
because I like my stuff. So
Can you start an organization there?
absolutely, I could. For me, for me to do that, I'd want to be doing something that is different from what is being done. I mean, there are a lot of charities doing many different things, but I'd want the right idea, because if I got the right idea, then I can attract the right funding.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
not just another charity, not just another charity for mentoring, for example, or not just another charity for, helping people who are
Yeah,
poor. And, I'd want something different, because I'd want to then attract funding, and it will be, so what are you going to do that's different? So I'd have to look at,
yeah,
and I think where I am is, I've got to probably try and develop my thought about, you know, looking at how we change the perception of how we view black and brown people in society, something along those lines. If I can develop something along that, maybe putting a course, some kind of curriculum together where it can be taught in schools or
Oh,
universities or
okay. I
education.
got you. I got you.
I don't know. I'm still just fishing for ideas right now.
Yeah,
You know what I
yeah.
mean?
Do you have a motto that you live by?
Motto that I live by. You know what? You just got to keep moving. Just keep moving. Don't stop. Just keep moving. That's it, man. I do a little bit every day, and I don't stop. I just keep moving forward. Never look back.
How
Just keep
about this
moving.
one? I'm stretching as if you are or not. I'm not sure. Are you a religious man? And is there a verse that you live by?
I grew up in a church, but I don't follow religion these days. Now, I believe in God? I believe that something exists, but
I got you.
I choose not to say whether it's a God, or he or she. But I'm not an atheist at all.
Right,
I would
right,
say
sure.
I'd probably identify more of as agnostic.
I got you.
And I hope I've not disrespected any religious people
Yeah,
watching
sure,
this.
sure,
I
sure.
just want to add that caveat. It's just
Yeah.
my own personal feelings.
Do you is there a question that I have not asked you? Something that you want to tell people?
No,
We've
you've
covered
covered
a
it.
lot, but yeah,
You've covered all the bases.
yeah,
You've
yeah,
covered
yeah.
all the
Okay,
bases, for sure,
okay.
for sure.
But you know this is gonna be bigger than you. You keep doing this another 2, 3 more years. It's gonna explode somehow.
Listen, I hope so. I really do, because I think that we've the time has come. Things are come to a head, and things need to change for the better. And like I said, a friend of mine told me that the ancestors are speaking for you. It is not what I say. So somebody said to me, it's
Yes.
nice. It's nice to feel that somebody sees that in me. So yeah, I'm just going to keep moving forward, keep tweeting, hopefully get some more of this exposure, and people can see it and
Yes.
think, hi,
Yes.
this
Yes.
is somebody. And it isn't just about me. It isn't me. It's us. We're a group of people. It's us. We're a nation.
Yeah. Yeah. I love
And
it.
and and
I love it.
if you're against injustice, and if you want better pay for people, if you want better working conditions, better housing, you know we can join the same side, the same team. I don't care about what color you are. I don't care about your religion. Let's join the team, and let's push back.
I love it. So are
Yeah.
you, I'm sorry, man. We're going to, this is one more. Are you ready to protest?
Oh,
Is
always,
that something,
always.
you know what I'm
I've
saying? Are you ready to
always,
march?
always. I've done it. Always, my man. Always, 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 nonstop. You know, you've got to keep pushing. You can't sit down. You got to
But
keep
are you
moving
ready
forward.
to hit the streets and march? Are you going to form a march and say, okay, and we're going to go down to the government and ask for demands, that kind of thing?
But the thing is, if you're gonna do anything like that, you're gonna be very smart about it, right? You know,
Okay.
you've got to put it together properly. Yeah, you can go and march, but often marches lead to nothing because there's no backup plan. But you've got to
Yeah.
plan it properly, and once you've got to plan properly, you've got the right people behind you, then you can get the exposure with the march, you know. And that's kind
Okay.
of
I
how.
got you. I got you. So give us again your Twitter feed.
Twitter, it's at Akon Kwaku, and Akon is spelled Akan. Kwaku. Akon is the region in Ghana where they say the Jamaicans ascended from. Kwaku means Wednesday born. It was a name given to me when I traveled West Africa, sorry, through the
I
locals.
love
And
it.
that's the name. That's where Kwaku comes from. My real name is Leon. I don't mind
Yeah,
saying
right.
it's not a
Yeah, it's
problem.
a beautiful thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was born Leon, but on Twitter I like to be referred to as Kwaku.
Everybody, watch out. I told y'all gonna like this. Me and my man Brian. I want to meet this bro. Man, I'm coming to London this year. Because the COVID thing has kind of subsided over there, hasn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah, it has
Yeah,
indeed.
like
It has indeed.
everywhere else, and free travel and all that
Yeah,
kind of stuff. And
that's
then
right.
y'all celebrate Black History in September,
October, the month of
October.
October. Mm.
And then they have that festival. Isn't there a festival in September?
The Notting Hill Carnival.
Is that what it is? Is that the
In,
Notting Hill
in
that's
not
like
not
more of a Black History festival or something like
That's
that?
right. That's always the last bank holiday of August every year. Notting Hill
So
Carnival.
so it's August. It's the end of August.
August. Yep.
Yeah, okay. That I might try to plan to come there. And so everybody, this is what we do is Strong Inspirations. We get these people, and let me say this: God got me this guy somehow. He followed me, and I said something. He saw the show. He said, "Hey," and then I said something, and hey, and here we are. It's bigger for him, and it's bigger for me. I am a better person knowing that there is you out there in this world. You, and I don't mean this no bad way. You giving your life for this. You give your spare time for
Yeah.
strangers. Somehow all this came in about you, and all of a sudden, and now it's where it is. Because 14,000 people in 2 years is very good.
Yeah.
And more will be
Absolutely.
coming your way.
Absolutely.
No
Absolutely.
question. And from
Absolutely.
around the world.
Absolutely.
That's a beautiful thing. I like that you picked up the mantle.
Thank you,
You're
sir.
smart enough to do it, and you did it. And were you hesitant at first?
No, not at all. It's just
Oh, really?
I've always been very vocal, and I think that Twitter was a great platform for me because I was working on I had a WhatsApp group. I have a WhatsApp group with 3 other people, and we discuss current affairs and politics, and we break down news on a daily basis, and we discuss
Oh, okay,
dissect the news, and
okay, okay,
we have discussions, and it kind of grew from there for me in terms of
okay.
going out into the wider space. And then I joined
Yeah,
Twitter, as I said, to
yeah,
discuss the Brexit, and then
yeah,
it quickly emerged that people are interested in politics and these discussions. So
yeah. I
yeah,
love it. All right,
yeah,
man. This is a beautiful thing. Everybody, like, I don't know if I said it before. Hit the subscribe button on Strong Inspirations. Hit the like button on this video because I know you love it, and there is no love button. Hit the notifications bell for when the videos come up.
yep,
Like I say, you get notified so you can watch it, and then share this with your friends. Take the link and just share it on your social media, whatever you do. Let other people hear these very interesting, beautiful, conscious stories like what my man just shared with us. And I say this, and I mean this with all sincerity, my brother. I really mean this. I want you to stay strong, stay safe, stay on your grind. Don't quit ever. Don't let what no one says to you. I'm talking about if a Black person comes up to you and says, "Man, I don't want to hear that." Say, "Well,
amen,
don't listen."
amen,
You know what I mean? Because you're gonna get some of
amen,
them too.
Absolutely.
What you doing? You bucking the system. Well, don't listen. And you know, and because everybody, and you on the side of right. There's no question about it. They can't say nothing wrong about you calling out what is wrong. And spin that. Keep going, my brother. Keep your health, safety, and all that other in your mind, and keep making that money and traveling and being the good guy you are. Thank you so very much for coming on Strong Inspirations. I truly, truly, truly appreciate it. And how about this? Can you close us with goodbye in any one of them languages?
Absolutely. I'll give you something in Swedish if you like. Tack för denna tid, tack för att du lyssnar. Det var jättetrevligt att vara med Anthony här och med er på Strong Inspirations. Ha det bra, jag älskar er. Hej då.
Peace. That's it. That closes out. Thanks, my man. Peace.
All right, thank you.
All right.